Well, here at the JPMorgan Healthcare Conference, I sat down exclusively with JPMorgan Chase Chairman and CEO Jamie Dimon. He was very upbeat on the transition into the upcoming Trump administration. But like many of us, he woke up on Election Day to a result he had not anticipated.
I was surprised. I think most people were surprised at the results, but I went to sleep at one point and woke up and drove to work and was thinking, maybe this would be good for the economy and for the average American, and so I've kind of moved on.
So you thought about the economic portion of what's going on, what Trump is coming out with. Let me ask you about that. What are your expectations for the economy as a result of his proposed tax policy and rollback of regulations?
So I like the fact that the focus has been on growth, and you see it when in the talk about the tax policy, regulatory policy. I think growth is going to be very good for all Americans, not just for companies. So I like that fact. I think you've seen some of that optimism reflected in the stock prices, et cetera, and hopefully they'll be able to deliver some of that.
So do you think that companies will, in fact, behave differently with the 15% corporate tax rate, with this idea that money will come back from overseas because of a better environment in terms of repatriation? Will we see companies respond and do something different that they weren't doing as a result of this?
Yeah, I think I've been kind of on this for a long time. Our corporate tax rate is higher than all other developed nations. Whether you look at the statutory rate or the effective rate, it's been driving capital, brains, and capability overseas for a long time. So if you reduce the corporate tax rate and you allow people to repatriate, you're going to have capital come back to the United States. More investment will be made here. Some may end up in stock buybacks and dividends, but so be it. That's the people's money too. And so, yeah, I think that would be a very big positive. I think it's very important the public understand that a lot of studies show that when you have corporations with lower tax rates, one of the big beneficiaries is wages. They compete. They compete hard to grow and expand. So yeah, I'm hoping that'll lead to a lot of growth.
So you think tax reform will actually get done?
I think it's very complex. So I think at one point you're going to see making the sausage. It'll be painful for all of us to watch the sausage. You'll be talking about it every day. So I think there's a good chance you'll have major tax reform. It has been done, I think, since like 1986. I would love to see it done. In any event, I think you'll see some tax reform done. Lower corporate tax rates, some form of repatriation, which maybe will help fund infrastructure programs. So you'll see something. The question is how much. And they have to coordinate that, obviously, as they go through legislation.
The markets have had such an incredible reaction. I mean, your stock up better than 20% just since Election Day. Why do you think that is?
I've always thought that, particularly bank stocks, but maybe for other stocks, that the political, regulatory, legal environment was pretty tough. And that, for a rational reason, that you would pay less for a company that's under, you're uncertain about future regulations, you're uncertain about litigation, you're uncertain about the politics, and that therefore, if you remove some of that, or think it's going to get better, that should be a plus. So I think that if you think the economy is going to be stronger, the regulatory environment will be more pro-business, the policy will be more pro-growth, that's good for business. And like I said, the important part is it's good for all Americans. This isn't just about, business.
I got to tell you, you sound a little like a Republican, Jamie. I mean, the last time we spoke, you said you were a Democrat hanging on by his fingernails. Yeah. How would you characterize yourself today?
I don't anymore. I'm independent of mind.
A lot of analysts are saying, as a result of a 15% corporate tax rate, earnings could be up 20% when we actually see this take place. Does that sound right to you? Could you see JPM earnings up 20% on a year that the corporate tax rate's at 15%?
Yeah. I mean, our effective tax rate is 30%. So, if you somehow cut that in half or reduce our tax bill a considerable amount, and I don't know offhand exactly what that means to corporate earnings. But again, remember, the reason to do some of the stuff isn't just to help big companies. It's to do things which are good for the economy, which help everybody. And that's what the focus should be, and that's why I think they're doing it. I don't think their interest in life is to help a bank. I think their interest in life is to help the United States of America.
In fact, they're talking about growth of 3.5% to 4% in a short period of time. Are you buying it?
I think it's possible. I point out to the economists that if you look at all the things we've been through in the last 8, 10, 12 years of war, Great Recession, huge regulatory environment, more and more global regulations, those things hold back growth. And they hold back confidence, both consumer and business confidence. So reducing those things, I think, will add to growth. Yes, I'm optimistic we'll go north of 3.
We've got the confirmation hearings this week. Obviously, Stephen Mnuchin today, Tuesday. You've got Wilbur Ross as well. Wednesday, you've got Rex Tillerson. Do you think these guys are going to get past confirmation hearings?
I hope so. I mean, past history says yes. unless something comes out that is terrible, but past history says yes. I also want to point out, I like the fact that a lot of these folks, they're successful, they've been around, they're knowledgeable, they've traveled the world, and they're making a huge sacrifice to go do this. Not just the public scrutiny they're about to go through, but in their own business life and personal life, and so I applaud them. And I think that a lot of these folks, they're patriots, they care about their country. They're not doing this to line their pockets. They're doing this because they think America can do better, both here and around the world. So I thank them for doing it, and hopefully be part of a team that accomplishes some of these things we've been talking about.
It's a totally different approach, having business people running government agencies. You think it could work?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at history, some business people have been very successful at it, some haven't. So I don't think you're automatically successful because you're in business. But I think having a successful career helps you. Having to learn and listen to people and make mistakes, etc. I don't think we should ever be in the position that we think that because someone's successful, they shouldn't have one of these jobs. Because they know a lot, they shouldn't have one of these jobs. And I think the notion is somehow that they're not a patriot because they've done business in complex countries around the world. That's true for most big companies. I'm convinced that some of these people are total, complete patriots just like the rest of us. And we shouldn't question that because they've been a successful business person.
Now, I was hearing that Donald Trump wanted you as Treasury Secretary. Were you offered the job?
I've always been quite clear that I'm not suited for the job, and I never really wanted the job, so, and I was not offered the job.
People think you would have been the best Treasury Secretary, though. But okay, you didn't want the job. You're doing such an incredible...
I appreciate that, but I like what I'm doing, and I have a new job too. There's chairman of the Business Roundtable, and and I do, but I want to help. So my view is there's a new president, and I'm going to do everything I can to help make that president successful. So as you know, I agreed to go on that group for jobs creation. I've got the name of it.
CEO Advisory.
The CEO Advisory Group led by Steve Schwarzman. So I'm going to do everything I can to participate in helping the folks in the administration do the best they can.
How can you do that? I mean, when you see a group of CEOs as a CEO Advisory sort of offside panel, what does that mean? You're going to be giving advice to President Trump? I mean, how do you see yourself working with this administration?
Yeah, so one is that panel, and the other through any other thing. So we've always, even with the Obama administration, with the Bush administration,
that's right.
If they ask us to do and help something, we've done it, including things like Bear Stearns, by the way. And so we've always tried to be helpful around policy, analytics, thought, issues they have, mistakes they think we might be making, or maybe they want to understand, capital markets in another part of the world. So whatever role we can play, and it won't be just me, it'll be several other folks at JPMorgan Chase, we're going to do that. And I think business could be a huge positive factor collaborating with government. I've always believed that government and business collaborating together are far stronger than them, being at each other. And so, I was right in the second I was asked.
I know you have, and you've talked about it a lot. In fact,